lightweight world title shot that's headlining this weekend's event when the UFC Octagon touches down in Atlanta, Georgia, has been a long time coming for Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Having fought in the UFC since early 2011 and after compiling a very impressive record against a who's who of both the featherweight and the lightweight division throughout his tenure with the promotion, it feels right that Poirier is finally getting his due. He's the rightful challenger for this championship. Granted, we aren't talking about an undisputed title here. The belt that's on the line this weekend coming is an interim championship, but it's some solid and meaningful hardware all the same. I'm not about to go on about the whole issue with the ever-decreasing reverence of the UFC world titles. It's true that there's a new interim title being created every other weekend, and that the importance and the meaning of the championship titles simply is nowhere even remotely close to as important as it was to the fans and the media like it used to be, but this is the world we're living in right now. I've come to accept things as they are, and hopefully over time there's going to be some sort of order restored around the championship titles. But in the meantime, Khabib is out, and depending on when he returns, as we've seen time and time again, the championship title that's on the line this weekend could very well end up turning into the undisputed title. And both competitors on the docket for the main event are more than deserving to be there. And I'm really starting to get the sense that most of the fan base feels the exact same way. So I'm expecting a great deal of excitement surrounding the main event this Saturday night. The really cool thing that a lot of people don't even realize is that Poirier vs. Holloway is a rematch that's been over 7 years in the making. I can actually remember watching the first fight live. Funny enough, it was an event headlined by an interim welterweight title fight between Carlos Condit and Nick Diaz. But back in those days, interim title fights were very, very rare and actually held a lot of meaning. I can't seem to help myself. Maybe I am going to end up taking the piss out of the whole usage of interim titles in this episode. But it's true. I remember watching this fight live because it was Max Holloway's first fight in the UFC. In those days, he was the youngest fighter on the roster, and he'd come into the UFC with a lot of hype behind him. It was action-packed while it lasted, but it didn't last very long before the Diamond ended up scoring a highlight reel finish when he submitted Holloway by a mounted triangle armbar. Even back then, it was a really impressive win for Poirier, but the weight a win over Blessed would carry these days is a whole other ballgame. The tear Holloway's been on over the past 6 years has been insane. I normally don't like the idea of the current champ of a division moving up or down to contend for another world title because the champ trend that McGregor has created is just played out and overexposed. And these fights should be far more rare than what they are. But if there's one fighter on the roster who deserves such an opportunity, it's Max Holloway. Having gone undefeated in his last 13 fights in the past 5 years is impressive on many levels. Throughout his reign, he had 2 consecutive years in which he fought 4 times and holds 2 impressive stoppage wins over the consensus greatest featherweight of all time in Jose Aldo, as well as another impressive TKO win over former lightweight champion Anthony Pettis. Max Holloway is an amazing champion, and he has what it takes to have the same success in the lightweight division. And I haven't looked at the odds yet, but I have to imagine he's the favorite coming into this one, despite the fact that one of his only 3 losses out of his 19 fights under the promotion came at the hands of the very man he's set to compete against this weekend. I know I'm stating the obvious here, but Holloway is not the same fighter that Poirier faced back in 2013, but neither is Poirier. On the surface, it seems like Dustin Poirier has had a lot more bumps in the road than Holloway, but the reality is he's only had 1 more loss in the promotion than Holloway, but he's fought 2 more times than Blessed in the UFC. On paper, in public opinion, and on my timeline, I'm starting to find that most seem like Holloway is going to likely come away from this fight. But the more I think about it, and the closer Saturday night comes, and as I watch this week's interviews and absorb everything I can about this contest, the more I see Poirier coming in there and surprising a lot of people. If I had to make a pick right now, I'm leaning towards Holloway to get the win because of the wave of momentum he's been riding with essentially no hiccups along the way. But at the same time, I do feel like if there's one fighter who may be able to get to Max on the feet, it's a guy like Poirier. He's technically incredibly sharp. Although he tends to take damage in his fights, and luckily for him, he has the ability to wear it well, he does keep a very high defensive guard, and he's fast with the straight down the pipe punches and sharp kicks. He knows when to string together combinations and when to take chances, and I think he has the toughness to stick around for all 5 rounds. No idea what's going to happen, but one thing I can say with certainty is that we're in for one hell of a fight this weekend when the Octagon touches down in Atlanta, Georgia.